Welcome to today's video where we are talking about 3 ways to nurture your inner child. I am so glad that you're watching this today, and I hope that this finds you well. My name is Martina if you're watching this for the first time, and if you are not watching me for the first time, then you know what I'm all about. So a little bit of housekeeping things before we get started, everybody. So first thing is, if you guys are watching this on Facebook this morning, I would encourage you to head on over to YouTube when this video is done and hit the subscribe button and the bell to receive notifications for each time that I come live, which is, Monday to Friday around 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, typically. But I am human and it always doesn't work out that way, but I try to be consistent. So anyway, a couple other little things before we get started. If you are not watching this in my community, I have a community called Imperfectly Perfect You here on Facebook, and it is a group just really empowering women to find self-love at any size. Take those brave leaps towards inner healing. And this is just that small community where we just empower and inspire each other and stand beside each other throughout our journeys, because I think it's super important to realize that we often feel alone, or it can feel lonely when we're going through that deep inner healing that can sometimes be difficult, more times than not. And it's just, it's so heartwarming to have that community of people, and I know I am grateful for each of those people in that space.
Often feel alone.
Oh, there's my voice. Okay, so let's get started, you guys. So when we're talking about nurturing our inner child, this kind of links back to childhood trauma. So no matter how big or small, that we have all experienced some kind of trauma as a child. So these traumas can vary from having your favorite stuffed toy thrown away, to be abandoning by your childhood best friend, to being physically or emotionally abused by your family or parents or something. So there's a very wide range of reasons why we can hold childhood trauma, and it's going to look differently for everybody. So firstly, I think it's important to understand that there are many different types of childhood trauma. These include things like physical, but then there's emotional, mental varieties. Like, there is just such a wide spectrum of things that fall under the umbrella of childhood trauma. And like I said, it's going to be different for everyone, and something that happened to you may not have affected you, but it may have affected someone else. So the answer really is that our deepest wounds that we carry to this day as adults are carried from the child within. So these wounds kind of create tensions, blockages, contractions within our hearts, minds, and bodies. So that kind of feeling of imbalance happens due to our childhood trauma and, the deepest wounds that we have carried throughout our lives from things that probably happened to us as a child. So when what we have to realize is that when we're contracted and we become trapped in a tightly bound separate self, this is also known as our ego. And so the thing with our ego is that you may or may not already know is the ego is the source of our suffering, as it kind of creates that inner illusion that we are cut off from our true nature. When when we're talking about our inner child, when our inner child is stuck in pain, it kind of fuels this contracted ego. And so our inner child work is a vital practice in our journeys, either to self-love or our spiritual journeys or whatever kind of journey that you are on to do that inner healing bit. We need to know that our inner child work is that vital practice, for with doing that work, we kind of heal and evolve and we awaken. So those are just amazing feelings that can happen when you start to do that inner work and be able to really truly connect to your true nature. So to give you guys a brief little introduction, inner child work is that process of contacting, understanding, embracing, and healing your inner child. So your inner child represents your first original self that entered this world, and he or she contains your capacity to experience wonder, joy, innocence, sensitivity, and playfulness. So all of those wonderful attributes come from your inner child. So what I wanted to talk to you guys about today and hopefully help you understand and give you some easy practices, not easy, but simpler practices that you can start to do today to start to work on that inner child self and, let go of the ego and, really release yourself from that suffering. So, and our childhood trauma, it's just, there's so much we can talk about with this. And I know I'm still learning and diving into this. And I think you always will. Like, I don't think a person's going to be like, yeah, that childhood trauma stuff, I dealt with that a long time ago. It's all gone. Just like a lot of this work, it takes consistency, dedicated effort, and it's hard. It's not easy. And I'm the first to say that it is not easy doing this work, but it's quite rewarding when you start to see those glimmers or glimmers of self-love or glimmers of that inner child starting to be healed. So what I wanted to do today is give you guys 3 little ways that we can start to work with our inner child. So the first one is to speak to your inner child. So acknowledging our inner child and letting them know that we are there for them, treating our inner child with kindness and respect. And really those can be just simple statements and nurturing things that we can say to our inner child. So you could just do this you could journal these things, or you could say them out loud. You could say them in your head, whatever your comfort zone lies. And just say some things like, I love you. I'm here for you. I'm sorry. Thank you. I forgive you. These are all things that we can start to just make a habit of talking to our inner self and our inner child. And we can do this via talking or journaling. If journaling is something that you do, this could be something that you make a part of your daily journaling practice. If it is something that you feel you have a lot of healing to do in this area of our inner child, then these could be statements that you say every single day to yourself, and just making it a habit. And so that's the first way we can start to just really acknowledge and send that loving kindness to our inner child by just continuing to say those nurturing things of, I love you, I'm here for you, I'm sorry, thank you, I forgive you. Very powerful statements that hold a lot behind them, right? And so when we're doing journaling too, you could also take this a step further by saying things like asking your inner child a question and then just writing down the response. So, there's so many different journal prompts that you could do, and if you search online, you're going to find lots. And if you want me to find you some, I'd be happy to do so as well. So moving on to our next tip. So our next tip is a little bit deeper, and a lot of people do not like the idea of this practice. It takes a lot of vulnerability and courage, so it may not be for you, and that's okay. But this is called the mirror gazing technique. So this is just finding a mirror in your home, finding a quiet place, placing a gentle hand on your heart, and just gazing at yourself softly. And the challenge here is to do this for at least 5 minutes. So taking that moment to hold that hand to your heart and just softly gazing at the mirror in front of you. And you'll notice some thoughts come up, and even unexpected emotions may come to the surface at first. And you just really need to remind yourself to let them pass. Don't attach to those thoughts or those emotions. Just let them be. Kind of like I like to think about seeing them as like clouds in the sky and just allowing them to pass. And just remember that it's okay to hold yourself if you have like intense feelings of grief emerge or something when you are doing this practice. And then once you feel ready, we'll kind of do this practice of calling on our inner child. And we may do this speaking out loud or saying it quietly to yourself. And once you kind of sense or kind of visualize that inner child emerge, say something kind and loving to this vulnerable part of you. For example, saying, I see you. I am so proud of you. I think you are brave and strong. Some other things we could say, like whatever's appealing to you, whatever calls to you, really using your intuition here. And really, at the end of the day, we want to notice what feelings arise when we're doing this work. And we want to just remember to send that loving kindness and compassion to ourselves throughout this process, especially if you are experiencing kind of difficult or intense feelings. And so to finish this little practice, after you have gone through this part, you would just give yourself a hug and let your inner child know anything on your heart and mind that comes up for you. You could journal about your experience. This is another good layer to add to this. If you are not ready for that, that's okay. And really, I want people to realize that these practices, take what you want from them. Like if you find only certain parts of it or only one of these ideas is something that you think you could try right now, just honor that. Honor those feelings that you have. Honor that intuition of like what you're able to kind of hold in that container for yourself. And only take it as far as you can. Nothing should ever feel forced or uncomfortable. You may have uncomfortable feelings as you go through, especially the mirror exercise, but just to let yourself feel and, let those thoughts come through and just allow them to pass, I think is the most important part. So then my last little way for you guys to work on this is to recreate what you loved to do as a child. And this one is super fun, and this is something I have tried personally, is to sit down and think about what you love to do as a child. So for me, my things I loved to do as a child was play outside, build forts, like make things with my hands, whether it be like a fort or like, make patterns in the ground with rocks. Like outdoors was a big part of my childhood, and it made me happy. Things inside would be like things like drawing and painting I loved to do. So those are things that I try and make time for now. And it really does bring you back to those feelings. Especially through our inner child work, it allows you to connect to parts of yourself or sides of yourself that you really never even knew existed as an adult. Because as adults, we are really trained to grow up, and we lose that whole sense of wonder and joy and playfulness, right? And I think, that's a big part of inner child work, is really coming back to that playful part of yourself as an adult, like doing those things that made you happy as a child. And, as you experience them as an adult, you will probably experience just as much joy doing them as you did when you were a child. So this discovery, like this practice of really discovering, reigniting or recreating that things that you loved as a child, it's truly life-changing. And it's really important that you make these things a habit, like playtime, and explore any embarrassment or silliness that you feel towards it. And know that it's completely normal to feel a bit silly at first, but it's important to keep an open mind. Because really those things, doing them as adults, you really connect to a sense of like, this is me. This is where I am my true self. This is where I am happy. This is where I feel joy. And we need more of that in our life, right? Like I feel as adults, we are definitely trained to, like I've said, grow up and just do the things that grown-ups do and don't make any time for that playfulness, that joy, that happiness. And it makes us feel those feelings of feeling sad, feeling depressed, feeling anxious. Like there's so many intense emotions or feelings that can come up, which it can actually make a person sick. So if we don't take the time to nourish those inner parts of ourselves and that inner child, we could be actually making ourselves, either mentally or emotionally unwell, right? So I believe that there is a lot of power behind healing your inner child and taking this time to do these vulnerable practices. And once again, choosing the thing that resonates the most with you. I think for me, the funnest one that I have discovered and that I do as, more often than the other two practices is really that whole part of recreating what I love to do as a child. Because you will really, I'd love to hear your experiences with this if you try to do this and how you feel, because I know me doing these things, it's really inspired me in my journey and made me realize that I need to make more time for those things. So anyway, that is my little chat with you guys today. I hope that it was helpful. I hope that you found a couple reasons why you may want to, take those brave leaps towards doing this type of work and helping yourself heal. And that is all I had for you guys today. So a couple little things before we head out. If you feel like, if you are a part of my community, if you see what I'm doing, if you listen to some of my videos and you just feel a pull towards needing more support and help in your self-love journey, I would love to welcome you into my kind of membership community where it's called the Self-Love Revolution with Martina. It is a program where we really stand beside you throughout your journey to discovering, exactly who you are, doing all this different, this wheel of things that help us to really become confident in ourselves, to do that inner healing work. We do a lot of chakra work and energy healing. We really dive deep into body positive practices and intuitive eating, really this well-rounded approach that is just going to help you to shine brightly throughout your life and, take those brave leaps towards inner healing with a whole community of women standing beside you. So that program is available for 40% off, which is insane. You guys don't understand the value that this program holds, and I am so happy to offer it to you guys. So if it sounds like something that you need to do to take that extra step forward for yourself, I would love to welcome you into that program with open arms. So if you want to learn more about it, you can click the link in the description or just message me. I love to hear from you, and I'd love to have a conversation to just provide any clarity or questions that you have about what the program is involved with, stuff like that. So anyway, in the meantime, if you guys are not already in my group, Imperfectly Perfect You, we are hosting a 21-day self-love challenge in there right now. We're going through 21 days of kind of thought-provoking daily challenges to just really question where your self-love is now and how we can take those brave leaps towards changing how we feel about ourselves, how we show up for ourselves, our confidence levels, our self-esteem, our self-worth, all those awesome things. So we are going through a free 21-day challenge right now. So we would love to have you there. My phone's ringing. Anyway, just follow the link in the description. That will take you to the group. And then we are just on day 2. So you have time to join us and catch up. There is lots of time. And if you are watching this later, that challenge always will live in the guide section of the group. So you can always go back and do that challenge anytime if you wanted to go through that process for yourself. So anyway, you guys, I'm going to pop out of here. I hope you have the best day, and we will talk to you later.